What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another edition of Weapons Hot, Jets fan broadcast here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. I am your host, CJ the Painkiller DeSimone, and I am joined, as always, by my superstar squadron right here. In the box just below me, right over here, we have Mr. Kevin Spotty Blackman Jackson in the house. And, of course, not to be outdone, my XO, directly to my right, your left, however you're watching us, if you're watching us upside down or whatever, Jimmy the Reaper Jardine in the house. We got
a few
things that we're going to talk about. It is on. First off, gentlemen, how are we doing? Let's start with Jimmy, and then we'll go to Kevin. Jim, what's going on, man?
Not much, man. I'm just living life and doing the thing, getting in arguments and getting banned on Twitter, and the huge.
The huge,
right? Secret bunker style.
Spotty,
right?
Talk to me. What is going on, brother? You have been very, very active on social media as of late. What is going on, my brother?
I'm sure we're going to talk about it. Right. Right.
Oh,
I'm sure we're going to talk about it.
We got a lot to talk about tonight, believe it or not. We got things. But, of course, one of the things to get to. All right. And, again, shout out to Miss Alexis Gepner. We heart you, my dear. One of these days before the Houston game, we got to get you on. She is spearheading, along with the HoustonJetFans.com, a massive tailgate that will take place at NRG Stadium in Houston when the Jets come to town to take on the Houston Texans. Details for that tailgate are right there, right on the banner that you see at the bottom of your screen right over here. That is the website that you go to in order to get information about that tailgate. The tailgate's going to be in the blue lot. They're going to have tremendous amounts of food, Jets-inspired cocktails. It is going to be freaking awesome. So let's
Texas barbecue.
Alexis and there you go. Let's help Alexis and company turn NRG green and white. Let's turn that New York Jets home game and put that fire out when we stomp the Houston Texans, and hopefully not the other way around.
Yeah.
All right. So, again, if you have any questions or any concerns about the tailgate, additional information, please definitely reach out to Miss Alexis Gepner, and she will hook you up. All right. So, boys, craziness right now. The New York Jets coming off their bye week. Mike White been named the starter. You've been incredibly outspoken about this. All right, on social media. So we are definitely going to talk about this. But first things first, the New York Jets take on the Buffalo Bills at home. It's the first meeting between the Jets and the Bills this year. Going to be a very interesting game, considering that both teams coming off crushing and disheartening losses. The Jets coming off a very tough loss against the Indianapolis Colts, 45. They attempted a comeback, and the comeback came up short. Although people want to pee all over it and say that, it was all their points were in garbage time. But I say, screw that. This team actually fought to actually make it a game. The Buffalo, however, ranked NFL defense, okay, along with, I believe, the third NFL offense, getting speed by the lowly Jacksonville Jaguars. In Jacksonville, no less. So you know that the Hill people are going to be angry when they come to MetLife.
I love that.
And yes, I quote the Hill people to pay homage to the ABC Being Green podcast. Shout out to those guys, Michael Garrison, Keith Farrell.
Every time
Keith
says
love
that,
you guys.
Every time Keith says that, I cry.
Here is going to be a very interesting matchup. You're talking about two very angry football teams that are going to be squaring off, okay? We've got what some people would like to assume that there is a quarterback controversy brewing in Florham Park between Mike White and Zach Wilson, which are going to talk about here a little bit. But first, what I want to do is Kevin, I want you to tee us off for a little bit because obviously you have some thought going to this game. So please let us know what you're thinking. And then we're going to swing on over to Jimmy because I'm very curious about his thoughts. So, and oh, by the way, Jeff Stenberg in the chat already.
What's up, Jeff?
Saying that Kevin Jackson is the GOAT.
Okay.
Man, if Kevin Jackson, if you really thought Kevin Jackson was the GOAT, maybe he should be in the show more often.
Right, that's what I'm talking about. Swing back through, Jeff. We miss you. Check this out, though. Look, I'm gonna try to be brief about this, right? Because I think most folks have already either heard or seen or talked to me or kind of got their ear bent about this. And realistically, I guess the whole Mike White, Zach Wilson controversy, whatever. I really don't see it as a controversy. Just what we're talking about is a situation where all of these people are assigning this, oh my God, he's the savior, kind of hype to Mike White. When Mike White is the backup quarterback for the New York Jets.
Yes, he is.
I mean, let's keep this real, okay? I'm sure there's going to be some folks who disagree. I've actually been talking to a few 100,000 of them over the course of these past few weeks because apparently the reactionary Jets fans seem to think that Mike White is not even the second coming of Joe Willie, but this guy's Tim Brody as of right now. So look, Zach Wilson got hurt. Zach Wilson got hurt, right? Zach Wilson hasn't played great ball every game this season. That's understandable. Mike White came in, had one good game that was recognizable. Let's also be clear that it's not like he was a world beater. Mike White didn't revolutionize the position of quarterback. He played within the system, and the system is the star, right? If let's just say this, Mike White could come out and play the exact same game that he played against the Bills, and Elijah Moore and Michael Carter may not play the same game that they played against Cincinnati, and we'll lose the game, right? Doesn't diminish what it is that Mike White does. It just it literally means that we're kind of losing context when it comes to what it is that we saw in the Cincinnati game. We actually saw Mike White play well. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna say he was bad. I'm not gonna say he was a superstar. Mike played well. He was decent. He actually did what it is that this offense is designed to do. And when I said just a minute ago that the offense is the star, I meant that, right? I meant that because we and me in particular, I started the season saying I expected that we were going to put up points in bunches. I'm saying it again because I really do feel like this is the type of situation that we have. The offense is designed to put up points in bunches. And if Mike White comes in and puts up points in bunches, that's what it's designed to do. Josh Johnson, who nobody is talking about is Jesus Christ, or nobody's talking about is Joe Willie or who the hell ever else. He came out and he, you know what? I'm gonna say this. I can't say that he played the exact same game that Mike White played, but he put up similar stats doing different things. And what we are missing is that Zach Wilson is a combination of both of those things when he is able to play the game that we drafted him to play. Right? We saw it in his little press conference. He says, "Yeah, Mike White played good, a really good game. What it is that I need to do is to start to, take what it is that the offense gives me, like he did. I need to incorporate that into my game. We've already seen him do what Josh Johnson did with the downfield stuff, and we also know that he is better in both. Pardon me. We haven't seen him play that same type of game that Mike White played. He's a more talented quarterback. So the expectation is that after he's watched that Cincinnati game 140 times, like I'm sure he probably has, it's probably on repeat at the crib. Back and it's just running on loops. He's just watching it over and over. At least if I'm John Beck, that's what I'm telling him to do. Right?
That's right there.
Well, I'm just saying, if he comes back and he says, "This is what it is that they're giving me. This is what I'm going to do," and still has the ability to press downfield. We haven't even seen the best of this offense just yet. So look, Mike White played decent ball. Everybody wants to say, yeah, play the hot hand. I am of the mind that every snap that Zach Wilson does not take after he's 100% healthy, is a waste. If Mike White takes any more snaps, Zach's 100% and he's not starting, it's a waste. We're not doing what it is that we're supposed to be doing. And not only that, but we are hindering what I love that CJ always brings when he talks about this specific topic: sustainable winning. Sustainable winning. We want this offense to be good every single week, every single game. And in order for us to do that, when Zach is 100% healthy, Zach's the guy.
Yes.
Point blank period. The end. That's a wrap. I'm going to get off my soapbox now because I think everybody's heard me. Everybody's, whatever. If you guys are in the chat right now, holler at us in the chat. If you think I'm crazy, if you think maybe I should put the vodka down, whatever, then tell me that. We'll discuss it. But as of right now, I'm going to take another drink. And I'm just going to let you guys know this is Zach's team. And anybody that thinks anything different, I'm telling you, you're deluding yourselves. I'm done. Jimmy, I know me and Jim, we have similar thought processes on this. I think Jim can be a little more eloquent in times when it comes to how it is that he discusses this. But I'm telling Jim, talk to me, man. What do you think? Am I wilding out right now?
As always, Kevin, you are a very tough act to follow because you put the facts out there in a very matter-of-fact way. And it's tough to argue against. If you have a differing opinion on most of the things that you talk about in regards to this team, it's really hard to say anything different. I agree that Zach 100% healthy needs to be in the game. The people that are like run with the hot hand, do you realize the point of this whole thing is to win games? The objective of winning games is to make the playoffs. The objective of making the playoffs is to fight for a championship. The root of all of this is money. The team makes more money the deeper we go. Now, when those fans say run with the hot hand, do you realize at this point we almost, not quite, but almost have to win out to be considered for playoff spot? And in my opinion, I want to win games as much as the next Jets fan. I really do. I do. And I think we have the pieces in place to do that. But realistically, first-year head coach, first-year offensive coordinator, a brand new quarterbacks coach being called up from college, we are in evaluation mode. We have to know who we're going to keep and who we're going to deal in this next offseason.
Or not deal. Right?
Or not deal, or who you want to keep, absolutely. But the thing is we have a quarterback that we have about 3 years, 3 seasons to make a $30 million a year plus decision. And we have a backup quarterback who's 27 now, will be 28 next year, okay, who cost us $850K for this season and is a restricted free agent next year. Now, just from a financial standpoint, what's more important? I think you want to know what your $35 million rookie contract kid is going to do. That's just my opinion. How many people were like, Sam needs another year. Sam needs another year. I mean, he wasn't able to show what we needed in 3 years. We're already halfway through year 1. We have 2.5 seasons left on Zach to make that decision. And that's a issue of whether we extend him after year 3 or whether we pick up the 5th year option or, whatever the case may be. But I think the bigger issue is you have to think about this from a financial standpoint. You can't just look at it through a fan's eyes and say, Mike White's winning games. He won us a game. We need to stick with him. Because as I've pointed out 1,000 times, the first 5 games are a completely different offense than we've seen the last 2. Even the last 2, we'll call it 2.5, the Patriots game, where Mike White started to shine there at the end. I think a lot of people see that And they don't understand that. I think that game plan was actually built for Zach Wilson in that New England game, but he got hurt early. So Mike White came in and played the same game plan that was, I believe, tailored for Zach Wilson. So I don't think it's I think people may have not really thought about what my point was. I don't think it was Wilson goes down, we change the entire offense for Mike White. I don't think that's the way it was. I think it was LaFleur finally saw, hey, what we were looking at isn't working. We need to change it up. And then Wilson gets hurt. I mean, I think that's the actual point. Because as I've said, I think we've been in a very, I won't say his name. We've been in a very vanilla offense that has resembled 2020. Let's just put it that way for the first 5 games. Run, pass, punt, repeat. Run, pass, punt, repeat. And it wasn't working. And I think if you look at the game plan, especially the first 15 plays, the first scripted plays of each game, I think they had, on the passing aspect of it, I think they had Zach Wilson looking from the outside in on his reads, from deep to short, and then check down. And I think LaFleur was like, you know what? Let's try the opposite. Let's try looking at short, intermediate, check down, nothing's there. Or if you notice something in the process of that intermediate read, go deep. I think it's a simplified, faster read style that we're seeing in these last couple games. The problem is we haven't seen Zach execute that offense because he hasn't been in it. And that's what we need to see. You have to evaluate what our $35 million quarterback is going to do.
Contextually, if I may, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've been hearing a lot, about the stats and everybody saying, oh yeah, it's the same plays, all that. And I think I mentioned this a week ago that, yeah, they're the same plays. They're just not being called in the same situations, right?
Right.
We recognized the beginnings of what Zach was doing early was run, like you said, run, pass, and then punt, right? Mike White is, pass.
First 7 of the 15 scripted plays are passes.
You feel me though? But the first
reverses, trickery.
The first and second downs were passes in quite a few of them. And then as the game goes on, because we softened them up a little bit with that pass on those first few plays. Towards the end of the game, it allows us the opportunity to turn around and hand the ball off to Michael Carter on first down.
We start tailoring the offense.
Exactly, because now we recognize that Michael Carter's a beast, man.
I love that kid.
The contact balance. Oh man, I look. It kind of reminds me of me back in the day. But let me. I digress. I digress. What it is that I think a lot of folks are missing is that we do see a lot of the similar plays called because it's the same offense, obviously. But when they're calling the plays is different, and I think Mike LaFleur. You know what? Let me put it this way. This stretch of games is an opportunity for Zach to grow up a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Because Mike LaFleur goes up in the booth, and Zach now no longer realizes that he's got the safety blanket. Zach, as a rookie, let it be right or wrong or fair, not fair, fair, foul, or whatever you want to call it. Zach felt like he needed to have available to hold. And now coming back in, not only has he seen what it can be like when that hand is not there, when the eye in the sky is what it is that he needed. That's really what I think is going to benefit him more than having Mike LaFleur on the sideline. Yeah, they bring in Beck, and Beck is good, and Beck is going to be able to kind of repeat or rehash or parrot some of the things that Mike LaFleur would probably say were him on the sideline. But Mike LaFleur
and a guy that Zach's familiar with.
Exactly, which is even more. And I know a lot's been made about that in particular, but I think a lot of that is more pointing to the coaching staff and their ability to accept John Beck coming in. But the reason why we bring John Beck in is because Zach is the guy, not because Mike White's the guy. It's because Zach is the guy. So let's not get it twisted.
And I want to hear what CJ has to say, but I want to point something out real quick, because when you mentioned statistics, Kevin, I want to point something out that I've been pointing out, and I've been called out on it a couple times in the Facebook groups, and I think people are misunderstanding what I'm talking about. So one of the next gen stats, one of the advanced statistics that I've been pointing out is on target throws.
Yeah.
And there have been Zach Wilson has dealt with the first 5 games. Zach Wilson has dealt with 35% of those on target throws being dropped.
Yeah.
Now people go in and they see what I say, and then they run over to Spot Track and they're like, or Pro Football Reference, and they're like, wait a minute. Zach Wilson, there's not a 35% drop rate, it's 5.
Yeah. Come on.
But what they don't understand is I'm talking about specifically on target throws. It's a smaller sample size, so you get larger percentages the opposite direction. My point on that whole thing is an on target throw is an algorithm, is a computer algorithm that factors in the direction and speed the receiver is running, the route that he's running, the velocity, so the speed and trajectory of the ball, as well as any sort of impediment within the route. Is there a defender within 5 feet of where that ball is going to be targeted? Those are on target throws. Basically anything that has no legitimate reason to not be caught. So that's a smaller sample size than Zach's 180 or whatever throws that he's done this year. Okay. The problem, the reason that statistic is so important is the drop aspect of it. Because as I pointed out last week, if you factor out that 35%, if you take those out, Zach Wilson is completing 71% of his passes. He's got 4 less interceptions because 4 of those on-target throws that have been tipped by receivers into the hands of defenders. And 3 of those on-target throws were dropped on fly routes that would have been touchdowns. So statistically, if you factor out those on-target drops, Zach Wilson at the time going into week, at the end of the Atlanta game, so going into our bye week of week 6, Zach Wilson is statistically a top 7 quarterback in the NFL. And that's with the previous game plan, guys. That's my point, is you now put Zach Wilson in. You have LaFleur saying, hey, we're going to change things up. I want you to start looking short, intermediate, then deep from inside to outside. That is going to be a game changer for Zach Wilson. Sorry, CJ, I know I kind of went on for a while. CJ, what do you think?
I'm actually going to read these comments really quick from Scott Gillespie, who
I've been battling with Scott this week.
What's up, Scotty?
But is unable to actually interact with the show. But he did private message me a quite lengthy one. So please do not fall asleep through this, because apparently he disagrees with the both of you. I haven't given my take yet, but I'm going to give you my take after I read Scott's.
Scott disagrees.
I have to go back to work. So I'm not going to start. All right, let me start again. I have to go back to work, so I'm not going to start anything on the show. But I'll tell you, if you compare White and Wilson in college, White had better numbers. Wilson had a great year during a pandemic. If you don't believe me, look it up. Wilson had only 1 good game as a pro. White has put up numbers Wilson can only think about right now in the 1 game that he started. And he was doing it against a very good Colts D before he got hurt. 4 names: Dak, Russell Wilson, Kurt Warner, and Tom Brady. All of them got a chance because the starter on that team got hurt. Don't you, at the very least, owe it to the organization to see what this kid has got and what he can do? Last time I checked, the best quarterback in the game right now, Rodgers, sat for a few years. And if it comes to that, but what if we find that needle in the haystack? Please reserve your comments till I finish this. I'm only halfway through this comment.
Oh my God!
All right. If he proves that he can't do it, you could always put Wilson back in. But to bench someone who's put up the numbers he has is just cutting off your nose to spite your face. Why you don't look up how many quarterbacks had 3 over 100 Q rates to start their career. It's not very many. All the Wilson people are just afraid to give White a chance. This was always the year where we found out what we had on the team. not to find out what we had on the team except the quarterback position. He's got that single statement there. He's got a point, but I digress.
No, he doesn't.
I think you're kind of missing
about. Played him in preseason. Hang on. Let me finish, and I promise you guys will be able to rebuttal. Not to find out what we had on the team except the QB position. Say what you want about, he outplayed him in preseason. Vinny outplayed Chad in every practice, but the coaches still started Chad because they knew he gave them the best chance to win. So, Kevin, you started first. I know you got bullets. Fire off what you want to say. Tee up to Jimmy, and then I want to say my piece on this topic.
I kind of really appreciate the fact that everybody feels like they're all intellectual about this, right? And we got to see. Look, Josh Johnson's played better than Josh Johnson had probably one of the better performances in the entire preseason. And again, I know people will say, it was against the Eagles, third string, whatever. But when we're talking about somebody just operating the offense and running the offense in the manner that it was designed to run, and I think he really did a good job in particular. And he's still in the practice squad as of right now. So look, I'm not going to argue with the fact, and realistically, if I want to consider myself, being logical about this, I'm not going to argue with the fact that if the guy is playing lights out, that you kind of got to give him an opportunity. The fact is, Mike White's not playing lights out. Mike White's playing decent football. It's basic. I mean, this again is what I said earlier. The offense is the star, right? The offense is what is creating all of these opportunities. It's what's creating all of this offense. And realistically, what it is that we saw in Cincinnati was we saw the skill position players around Mike White actually playing the best ball that they've played all season. And I cannot say that it was only because Mike White, because if Zach can check down to Michael Carter. If Zach checks down to Michael Carter doesn't break 2 tackles and run for 16 yards, then what? Then is he not playing as good as Mike White is? No, that's just not the case. I think again, and Jimmy, I know you love when I say this, but the reality is that it continues to be relevant. We have been so hungry for wins. We have been so hungry for relevance for so long that we're, this is your Steve Buscemi moment. Take this Snicker and go sit your ass down somewhere, right? Because that's not what the hell is going on. You guys are missing the point.
I knew that was coming.
Look, this is not it. And look, I would be remiss if I said that if Mike White came in against Buffalo and played decent ball, because he's played decent ball, again, he hasn't revolutionized anything. He hasn't done anything outside of what basic, what the basic requirements of this offense would warrant. Then I would say, throw everything out the window and let's run with Mike White. But that's not what it is that we're seeing. We're seeing a guy who's been just a guy, who's been cut off the practice squad, more times than I don't even have a little cute analogy to run with that. But the fact of the matter is that he has been just a guy for quite some time. And if what the argument is going to be made is that that time being able to develop is what puts him in a situation where he's going to be good, then what are we doing when we're not giving the opportunity to the guy that we actually drafted to play this role? I get it. You like Mike White. I get it. So
I do too. I love the kid.
So what? I like. Look, I'm not bashing Mike White because I don't like Mike White. That's not what it is. I just think that we're being ridiculous if we say, let's let the guy that realistically we brought in with the expectation that the GM's entire career basically is going to be focused around if this kid pans out or not, and let's sit him on the bench behind a guy who's been just a guy because he had 1 or 2 possibly good games. No.
5 quarters.
No. And look, there were 5 quarters of decent football. Josh Johnson, who came off the practice squad, actually played just as well. Look, if I'm just going to keep it real, Josh Johnson is what really brought me back to earth on this. because if Josh Johnson would have come in and looked suspect, I would have been all on Mike White. Josh Johnson came out after being on the practice squad with less preparation time and put up similar numbers in a reasonably similar amount of time. Mike White didn't do anything special, neither did Josh Johnson. Zach Wilson is a better physical talent than both of them combined. And Correct. Here it is that we are talking about, oh yeah, sit him for the rest of the year. You've lost your damn mind. You've lost your damn mind. You know what, Jim? Please let me shut up.
Let me start this by saying, you want to know, Kevin, CJ, you want to know what Mike White and Josh Johnson have proved over these last 2 games? The only thing they've proven is that the only thing they've proven is that spending a 6th-round pick to bring Flacco back was a waste of a 6th-round pick.
Yeah, it was a panic move. That was a panic.
Sure,
yeah,
but we can say that in hindsight now, right? So, like at the time, we didn't know what we had.
Exactly.
So I get the move then. Hindsight, it's a waste. That's what Josh Johnson and Mike White have proven. Yeah. They are backups in this league, plain and simple. I see the talent. Okay, now I'm not talking about franchise starting quarterback. I'm talking about talent level. I see Tannehill, Derek Carr.
Wow.
In Mike White's wheelhouse.
None of them are championship caliber quarterbacks.
They could lead a team when needed, but they're not going to wow you every week. They're not going to be the guys you take in fantasy every week. I see Zach Wilson in the Mahomes level. I see Zach Wilson. Now, I'm not saying he's there. He's got a lot to work on. Zach Wilson's got to fix a bunch of things. But the ceiling is the Patrick Mahomes, the Aaron Rodgers area.
Yeah.
Now, Scott Cleesby likes to talk about how Aaron Rodgers sat. Okay, well, guess what, Scott? Aaron Rodgers sat behind Hall of Fame quarterback Brett Favre. Patrick Mahomes sat behind Alex Smith, an elite quarterback. He did not sit behind a 27-year-old backup who did nothing but watch Dak Prescott play football.
It wasn't even Dak. He's been on and off the practice squad here for how many seasons?
Right. But that's my whole point. He played 5 good quarters of football.
Look, I just saw a comment and Mike Benet. Mike drops in the comment. I think they've proven that LaFleur's system works when done correctly.
Correct. I agree.
The system is the star.
But right now, you're absolutely right, Kevin. But right now, we are comparing apples and oranges because we haven't seen Zach Wilson play this system. Yeah. We haven't seen it. And I said this was an analogy I used. If I own a race car team, right? And I put you as my driver, I put you in a Ford Pinto. Okay. And then a few races later, I buy a Ferrari and I put a different driver in my Ferrari. You shouldn't be held accountable for your performance in a Pinto as compared to a Ferrari. I mean, is that fair?
That is fair. Again, look, to the point that you're trying to make, this is more bananas and pomegranates to me, like completely and totally different.
Fair. Yeah.
Not even the same, category, color for nothing.
It's not the same sport.
Nothing. So realistically, and I know this is probably going to end up being a topic of discussion until Zach actually does come back and start, right? So I'm hoping that at some point in time this is no longer a thing. The fact of the matter is that Zach is the guy. Any inclination that you have to the opposite is incorrect. Right. Saleh, the team, even Robert Saleh, who says, "Oh yeah, week to week." I've said this a couple of times.
They have to say that.
What else is he supposed to say? Oh yeah, Mike's all right, right? Yeah, but no. Come on.
But think about it, and this is the last thing I'm going to say on this because I've actually put out in the New Era group. I actually put this out. The one thing I'll say is we can all agree that Greg Knapp is an elite quarterback evaluator.
Man, we wish.
Or he was. Rest in peace, Greg.
Yeah.
You know.
Wish he was
we can agree to that. We can agree that, LaFleur was the passing game coordinator in San Francisco. So we can agree that Mike LaFleur, by all accounts, is a top-level quarterback evaluator. Right? So what happened is throughout camp and throughout the preseason, which Mike White had almost 3 times as much game reps as Zach Wilson in preseason, these 3 guys, and Saleh I'm not saying Saleh is a quarterback evaluator, but Greg Knapp throughout camp, LaFleur throughout camp and preseason, and ultimately Saleh had a consensus that Zach Wilson was the more talented player and got the starting nod for week 1. Nobody else can argue against that.
We just gave him the job. Just gave it to him.
And I hate the argument. I hate the argument of Zach Wilson started because he was drafted 2 overall. That is a Woody Johnson and Chris Johnson combined with a Mike McCagnon move. That's what that is. That's it. That's what they would do. Joe Douglas, Robert Saleh and Mike LaFleur, first and foremost, are not going to put the start of their coaching careers in those positions. They're not going to say, Mike White is obviously better than Zach Wilson. I'm going to play Zach Wilson. They're not going to do it. No incentive. Because they had more incentive if Mike White was that much better than Zach Wilson. They have more incentive to let Zach Wilson sit.
Exactly.
But it didn't happen.
Look.
And anybody purporting that the draft pick was the reason, conspiracy theory, and that's all it is. But that's not how football works. That's not how these teams function. That's all I'm going to say on it.
I don't think there's a question that we've recognized Zach as a supreme talent in comparison to these other guys. And again, realistically, what it is that people are seemingly doing is speaking as if Zach Wilson hasn't shown flashes of being an upper echelon talent in this league, right? Like, yeah, the record might not show it, but the fact of the matter is that another 2 minutes and we win that Carolina game. Or excuse me, if we don't have those drops like we had early, who knows what it looks like? You know what I'm saying? Maybe we win that game, with a comfortable margin. Right?
It looks like a 70% completion percentage in that game alone.
Exactly. So, the fact of the matter is that the narrative seems to be that Zach Wilson hasn't played well. Zach Wilson, hasn't looked good at all. And Mike White looked so great in the time that he was in that really it doesn't make any difference. It did the hand down. Oh my God, Mike White is no. Mike White's a veteran quarterback. We don't draft veterans. I'm gonna say it for the 1,000th time. We do not draft veterans. We draft rookies. And that's the point. Everybody, and look, before this, how many times, CJ? I'm sure, you can attest to this. We've always had difficulty with our organization being able to develop talent. We have a situation now where we've got an elite talent, and nobody wants to. They want him to sit on the bench and watch. Like sitting on the bench and watching is how it is that you improve your skills.
I don't even think that's them. I don't even think the coaching staff is the ones doing that. It's the fans and the media.
It is. That's the point that we're having. These conversations
are
not
what I want to do is I want to bring in a special guest who is joining us.
Loudmouths in the building.
What's up, buddy?
It's good to see you, Errol.
He, ladies and gentlemen, is the straw that stirs the drink at the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Errol, how the hell are you, brother?
Speaking of drinks,
I'm just happy to be here. I will say this: I've been listening to you guys' show. I love you guys' show. I love what you guys had to say about Mike White, and I'm a Jet fan. Okay, I'm a diehard Jet fan. Any Jet fan will tell you, wow, the Jets found a gem in or a needle in a haystack. Oh, he's another Tom Brady. Oh, we got Tom Brady. What do they call it? 3.0. Listen,
that's been said legitimately.
Yeah.
But here's the facts. He had a great first game. He played well against the Bengals. The Bengals defense in the last 2 weeks has not looked good. Look what they did against a Browns team, a lousy Browns team. Let's be honest. Yes, they had Chubbs. He ran the ball all over. But that's why the Jets won that game. They had Carter run the ball very, very well. He ran the ball, I think, with all-purpose yards. He had 162 yards. So the Jets they could run the ball against the Bengals. Now, honestly, Zach Wilson should sit the bench right now until he gets 100% healthy. I don't want him playing in any games unless he's 100% healthy. Mike White is not the future of this organization. He's not. And right now, the only benefit of Mike White playing right now is that the Jets can get their 6th-round draft pick for him at the end of the year, because if he plays well, the Jets will be able to move him because he's he's a restricted free agent. They can franchise him, and then they could trade him in the offseason if he has a good 3-4 games. Somebody like Pittsburgh or Minnesota, if they decide to part ways with Kirk Cousins because they're going to bring in a new coach, there'll be other teams that will be interested in Mike White because he could be the future of their organization. But he's not the future of the Jets organization because Robert Saleh and Joe Douglas stamped their names and their careers on the line, trading Sam Darnold for a 2nd and a 4th in the offseason. So there's no way in hell Mike White is the future of this organization. And for Jet fans to sit here and put tattoos on their ass of Mike White's number, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It really is. He could be a great quarterback, but he's not going to be the Jets quarterback in the future. And he's not as athletic as Zach Wilson. He isn't. Zach Wilson, Mike White was a 4th or 5th round draft pick. Zach Wilson was a 1st round 2nd pick in this past draft.
For a reason.
He is expected to be an elite quarterback. Now, the Jets have gotten a lot of quarterbacks in the last couple of years that they were expecting them to be elite that weren't. I mean, Sam Darnold, they were right about. Now, I feel bad for Sam. He lost he lost Christian McCaffrey early because he can't stay healthy. He looked like he was going to play well this year. He was running the ball. He was doing all the things. But once he figured things out by, his old figuring, who he is as a quarterback, he starts throwing interceptions. And by the way, Robbie Anderson needs to learn how to shut his mouth. Okay?
For real.
It was an absolute embarrassment when you're going to go on the sideline. Dude, you didn't even want to be here. You said you wanted to be here. Then you told Joe Douglas he's going to regret it. No, Joe Douglas doesn't regret it. He regrets not getting rid of you before he did.
And Robbie Anderson, and Robbie Anderson, let's point that one out real quick. Robbie Anderson didn't even have the courage to stand toe-to-toe with Sam Darnold and say the things. He liked to say them in passing as he was walking by.
Look, the optics of it is a lot different if Robbie's standing and barking in front of Sam Darnold, right? The optics of it is different. So, I mean, realistically,
that's fair, Kev. That's fair.
And I mean, Jim, you've been on the sideline. You know how it works. I mean, you can't do that. Like I can imagine you want to voice your frustration, especially when Sam is looking as bad as he did. Right.
I retract it. Yeah. You got a point.
But Errol's point, Robbie should probably, again, not allow that to boil over to where it is that he's at. You can't handle it better. But again, he wouldn't be Robbie if he did that. We all know who Robbie is. Robbie was here for however long, like him or hate him or whatever the case. The expectation is that, if Robbie's frustrated, especially after the season he had last season with Teddy Bridgewater, I can imagine he's probably feeling the heat right now also. So, I get all of that, and those are great points. Errol said something just a minute ago that made immediately, valid sense. When what we're talking about is the number 2 pick and the talent that we see in Zach Wilson compared to a 5th round pick that we have in Mike White, and being able to play him and maybe trade him or get some sort of compensation for him, it is the limitation on Mike White that he has to play within this system, because without this system, he's been just a guy, right? Without this particular system, he's been just a guy. Not only has he been just a guy, he's been just a guy that's been kicked off of practice squads multiple times. And now all of a
Kevin,
sudden,
most of his passes are checkdowns. Most of his passes are checkdowns.
He played.
That's it.
He was Mac Jones, right? He was Mac Jones. How many times have we heard that?
It was a good strike to Elijah Moore in the Colts game. I'll give him that.
Yeah, that was a good touchdown. Yeah, absolutely.
That was one.
Absolutely.
Out of the multitude of opportunities that he had.
I want to jump in here.
Come on, CJ.
All right. First off, Mike White versus Zach Wilson. Plain and simple. I've said this on Weapons Hot Mission Briefs. I said this last week. I said this the time before that. And I'm going to say it again for the people who didn't listen. Mike White is case to be the long-term backup quarterback for the Jets. Why? Because he can properly execute this offense. That's number one. Number two, this is Zach Wilson's team until otherwise noted. Plain and simple. Number three, stop comparing Mike White to Tom Brady because he is not Tom Brady. That is a stupid comparison. It makes you look stupid. It makes you look foolish. And just shut your mouth because you obviously know nothing about football. Stop it. You're embarrassing yourself. All right? Mike White right now, and the benefit of Zach Wilson sitting here watching Mike White play is he's learning the ins and outs of defense, which is adding to the knowledge that the kid already has. This was a blessing in disguise for the kid to get hurt right now, as opposed to being benched, which would have been a complete and utter disastrous blow to this kid's psyche. Okay? Let's what it is. Keeping the seat warm until Zach is 100%. When he is, he's going to get the nod. And chances are, if I'm a betting man's going to tell you Zach Wilson's going to start against Miami next week. Plain and simple. Don't like it? Tough. Too bad. Because you know what? I get it that everybody wants to go with the hot hand. Even I got excited and I was like, okay, well, let's go with the hot hand. Zach, dude, if I'm Zach Wilson, I am up Mike White's ass something fierce. I am in the tape. I am friggin' talking to him on the sidelines. Like, dude, what did you see on this play? What did you see on that play? When you ran this play, I'm caught, dude, at 2 o'clock in the morning while I'm watching tape. Dude, what did you see at this play? How were you able to make that play? How were you able to spot this check down versus that check down? If I am Wilson, I am milking every single bit of information out of both Mike White and Johnson because I saw these guys execute the offense. And you know, all he needs, guys, is just that ability to get the short and intermediate routes down pat where he can do it in his sleep. We already know the kid has a cannon for an arm. This kid can put the ball 50, 60, 70, 80 yards in a heartbeat. But I need him to be Patricking in the paint. I'm saying this for the past couple of weeks. I'm using Patrick Ewing because why? Patrick Ewing could hit the three, but he could go power right into the paint and he could get you those tough points. That's what I want.
CJ once again is bringing the heat, but something just dawned on me as I'm listening to you kind of drop knowledge, right? Mike White's role should be more Josh McCown than it is Tom Brady, right?
Thank you.
Josh McCown came in and basically showed Zach what it was supposed to look like. Mike White came in and basically showed Zach what it's supposed to look like. Josh McCown, who to be perfectly honest with you, had a pretty decent season. Years back. I mean, we were just talking about Robbie in particular, and he almost gets Robbie 1,000 yards in that season because of how effective he was. Now we're not talking about Josh McCown. We're not talking about Josh McCown being a world beater. We're not talking about Josh McCown being a Super Bowl MVP. We're talking about Josh McCown
was a friggin' throwaway, Kevin.
That's it.
He was a throwaway.
Exactly. Now Mike White has the ability to be one step above a throwaway. He has the ability to be a step above a throwaway, but his role was to be that sounding board, that guy that can actually help the guy come into his own. That's what Mike White's role should be right now. We shouldn't be trying to crown Mike White as the savior and franchise quarterback. I think that's ridiculous. And look, I've had this conversation with people I respect, right? People whose takes I respect. I'm looking at you guys like, come on, man, cut it out. That's not what this is. That is not what this is.
I will. Before I leave,
it's the truth.
Before I leave, because I gotta go, but I will say this for all the Jet fans that love Mike White. They can tattoo, like I said, they're tattooing their bodies. They're buying his jersey. That's great. It's a great story. Everybody remember Linsanity? Everybody remember Jeremy Lin? Remember that?
Talked about that.
Remember when he came to the Knicks and the Knicks brought him in, and for 10 games he was unstoppable. And Carmelo Anthony, Carmelo Anthony was pissed off because he didn't, he was taking the limelight away from him. Zach Wilson's playing his cards right on this. Yeah. When they asked him, what do you think about Mike White? He said, listen, I can't control what's happening on the field. I can only control what I'm doing, what I am doing to get healthy. When I'm healthy and I'm ready, then I'll worry about my job. Okay? He knows that the job is his. He knows that it's going to come to him again. So if it's Miami, if it's week 14, week 15, and by the way, how does everybody like Matt Rule? Because he's probably getting fired after this.
Done.
So all the Jet fans that said, "Oh my God, we should have brought Matt Rule in," even got $9 million from Carolina. He's going to be gone after this year, and he could take Robbie Anderson with him.
Right. Look, Matt Rule would have kept Sam Darnold.
Matt Rule might end up being the head coach in Florida because I think Dan Mullen's getting fired.
It's possible. Look, Errol, once again, my man, fire. Loud Mouths, baby. I post a link on my page if you guys follow. Check out the Sport Loud Mouths. The show is dope. Him and Speedy, the guys. You guys, it's a really good, it's quality content, right?
100%.
Quality content.
Love you guys.
Thanks for popping
in. Thanks,
Errol.
Errol.
Appreciate you, bro. Look,
Errol, too, bro. Guy, man. Be safe out there.
Errol's that guy. And again, Errol came in and spit fire. Part of what it is that I think that just to kind of speak to this last thing, and I'll shut up for a minute, but it is now becoming a situation where it is almost untenable to have this conversation, because either you feel like Mike White is supposed to be the franchise quarterback and Zach is supposed to sit for 8 games more during this season, or the expectation is that when Zach is 100%, he's the guy. Realistically, the only reason why Mike White is starting against Buffalo is because Zach isn't 100%.
Yeah.
It's and the narrative that everyone is kind of kicking out that, oh yeah, we don't want to start Zach against Buffalo anyway. We're gonna get him killed. I wish that wasn't a thing.
No, I think Zach would be pissed that he's not starting against Buffalo. But But the same thing here, it can be said. Mike White can go out, and if he does play well against Buffalo, which is actually going to tee me up into our next segment here, which we're going to do rapid fire because we're starting to run short on the clock. It is basically the more that Zach Wilson can absorb from watching Mike, the better of a quarterback he's going to be. Because now he'll know in short and intermediate games not to throw the ball at receivers or not to throw a bullet pass to a 3-yard slant where the receiver can't handle the pass. He's going to be able to do those things. He's going to be able to get knowledge of those things just by watching Mike White, and then being able to execute them in practice and being able to execute them in a game scenario is going to be the only way that Zach Wilson is going to be able to get that fundamental down, which is, in the end, going to make him a much better quarterback, a much well-rounded quarterback, and then he eventually will come into his own, in which he'll be the all-star we want him to be, or we hope he can be. Yeah. All right, let's face it. The New York Jets have been a meat grinder for quarterbacks for the past decade plus. That shit's got to end. Excuse my language. But it's got to stop. And hopefully Zach Wilson is the kid that it stops with. Point blank, period, the end.
That was the expectation, right? That was the expectation. Come on.
But remember the quarterback grinder that the Jets are perceived to be
Or have
don't
been.
come from the quarterback, and really it doesn't come from some of the coaching.
It comes from failed.
It
And
comes
also
from
bad front office.
it comes from turmoil that has been what the Jets have dealt with for the last 40 years. You have turmoil between coaching staffs and between front offices.
And that's not.
We don't have that turmoil anymore. We also don't have an owner who keeps shoving his hand in the cookie jar.
Facts.
We have Joe Douglas that is running football operations. Joe Douglas is running football operations for the New York Jets. Robert Saleh is coaching the New York Jets with the team that Joe Douglas puts on the field.
Absolutely.
And that's the way it should be. That's the way it's run.
I want to piggyback off what Jim says by echoing something that he said so ridiculously eloquently earlier in the season, right? And that is that the Jets now are being penalized for the sins of the past, right? Like completely, totally regime. Part of the difficulty that we're having this season is that everybody's brand new. But everybody that is brand new is now being viewed in the same lens as all of the people who are no longer here and no longer here for good reason.
Right.
So we need to kind of pull back a little bit on this. We need to pump the brakes a little bit. Again, another unfortunate side effect of hunger is making horrible decisions. And Jets fans in particular, because we're not really talking about the organization right now. We're not saying that Robert Saleh is saying that Mike White is the future of the NFL. We're not saying that. What we're saying is that Jets fans in particular, and I love you guys sometimes, but you guys are losing your minds. I swear it's getting on my nerves. I cannot believe that this is a damn thing. And just realistically, this will be the end of it for me. I can't wait until it's over. One way or the other. Lord have mercy. Let's cut it out.
Yep. I'm ready to talk Buffalo.
Please.
All right. So, all right. New York Jets offense versus Bills defense. Jimmy, we're going to start with you. We'll circle around to Kevin. Let's do this with fire.
Did you stop or did you freeze?
You gotta freeze.
Jets offense versus Bills defense is going to be a tough test. So this conversation of Mike White versus Zach Wilson may be over come Monday morning anyway. It's going to be a really tough test. It's going to, and not just for the quarterback position, but we're going to have to see what these Jets receivers do against probably, I'm not even going to say probably. We need to see what these receivers are going to do against the best safety tandem in the NFL in Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer, because those two are nasty.
Yes.
And they can lay the hammer when needed, and they can intercept the ball when needed. They are very intelligent players, and that's going to cut a lot of the field away from Mike White and the receivers. So look for another check down game. Look for another short intermediate passing game. Look for run heavy starting probably in the second quarter, leading into the second half. But that's the way I think the Jets are going to have to handle this. They're going to have to take Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde out of the equation and stick to make them cheat up, and then we can take the head off.
Exactly. All right. I'm gonna be real quick with this. Again, Jimmy kind of stole my thunder a little bit because he made
Sorry,
the point.
man.
No, you're good. Look, that shows that I trust what it is that you're saying when we're talking about this, because it is so in line with what it is that I believe that's going to happen. Errol said something just a moment ago. Mike White came in and balled out against the Bengals, and the Bengals weren't at their best, right? They actually didn't look like what it is that we expected that the Bengals were going to look like. I went into the Bengals game thinking that we were going to struggle a little bit because I thought that the defense was that much better. They really didn't look good against us, and they haven't looked good since then either. And Mike White is probably going to come in and he's going to have some struggles. Obviously, I mean, it's not like he's a seasoned veteran who's been balling out for years and games in and games out for seasons. That's not the case. And also, I think it's a ridiculous notion to say that if he does, that he's actually going to get any much of an easier task against Miami. Did you guys watch that game last night? Miami balled last night on defense. all of this about who's supposed to be what going forward. This Buffalo game is probably going to really expose some of these folks, and we're going to see what Jet social media looks like on Monday morning after this game, because I can almost guarantee you it's not going to be the same. And the folks that are just rallying behind Mike White, like Mike White is already in the Hall of Fame. I think you guys are going to have a crow sandwich real early on Monday morning. Get the hot sauce ready. I think it's coming.
All right, guys. Now we'll tee it up. Jets defense versus Bills offense. Jimmy, go.
The Jets defense, as I've said a million times before, is based off of rotation and based off of speed in the linebacker role and the defensive secondary role. This defensive line is counted on for pressure. The front four is incredibly vital in this type of a defense. So Quinn Williams has got to take a leadership role, and he's got to get these guys in line, and they've got to get to Josh Allen. They have to contain him. They have to put pressure on him. They have to make him make mistakes. Now, let's not forget that the Jacksonville Jaguars did not beat the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills beat the Buffalo Bills. No credit to Kevin Robbins for that one on live rounds. Yeah. But, I mean, realistically, the offense just imploded. The defense, I mean, the Jags scored 9 points, guys. Nine. Yeah. Buffalo Bills didn't get beat by another team. So we just Quinnen has to take all that nonsense away, all the talk about Buffalo being on a downward trend. Don't buy it. Don't buy it, because they can come back with a vengeance at any particular time. They're a damn good football team. Yeah. So what needs to happen is Quinnen, Sheldon Rankins, John Franklin Myers, Bryce Huff's on IR, but our defensive line guys have got to step it up. Facts.
And I'm going to take that one further, because the reality is that that's absolutely right. That has been the strength of what it is that we've been doing. And I think it isn't underrated, that our secondary has played the way that it is. But I need to go a little bit beyond that, because if our linebackers and our DBs are not up to the task, that's where we lose the game, right? Mm-hmm. Our defensive line probably should have a decent game. It's not as if Buffalo's offensive line has been so fantastic, and they haven't. It's part of the reason why they actually lost against Jacksonville last week. But realistically, because we have had some of the difficulties that we've had with maintaining contain in a lot of these cases, screens and stuff like that. And we know how dangerous Josh Allen can be when he gets on the move. That is going to be a true test for us. And obviously our linebackers have been a serious question mark outside of CJ Mosley, who again is my favorite Jets player right now. I'm a defensive guy. I'm an offensive. I like to watch offense, but defense is where it is that my heart lies. And our defense, it kind of depends on which one shows up, right? Because we've seen our defense play at an extremely high level, but we've also seen our defense give up, 500 something yards back-to-back weeks. So it's going to be difficult. I think it is within our range to be able to come in and play spoiler, especially with what it is that we've seen, in Jacksonville just last week. But I think this is a stepping stone game for us, because we obviously going into the Miami game, I think we're going to need to kind of show that we can be consistent. But how it is that we finish this game against Buffalo is going to be a really big test. And if our DBs aren't up to the task, if our linebackers aren't up to the task, it's going to be a really long day. And the safety situation for us is really dire. If Ashton Davis cannot actually show that he belongs here, I think we're going to really have a difficult time. And this may actually be the last time we really discuss Ashton Davis going forward, because if he's not any good, he's not going to be here.
And just one quick piggyback on that, and then I want CJ to jump in here. We talked about the Cincinnati game being a test for the defensive backs because of T. Higgins, because of Tyler Boyd, because of Jamar Chase. Make no mistake, guys. Stephon Diggs, Cole Beasley, and Gabriel Davis is just as lethal a trio.
Yep. It's going to be tough. It is going to be tough. I still think that we have an opportunity to really kind of be in the game. And I think, for what it's worth, the team they want to rally around Mike White at this point in time. And I mean, sure. I get it, but if the supporting cast doesn't play well, it doesn't matter what Mike White does.
Right.
All right, guys, one last question before we finish up the segments. I'm actually going to go in reverse order. Kevin, I'm going to ask you this question. Which New York Jets team actually shows up on Sunday versus Buffalo?
You know what? If we can get a mix of the Tennessee defense and the Cincinnati offense, we win the game.
Definitely.
That's just that. That's
Jimmy, what are your thoughts?
Some along the same lines, but as you know, the Jets always seem to show up and be the team that we all hope we can be on the games that we're supposed to lose. So I'm gonna kind of ride that wave and say the Jets can win this game.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man.
All right. So real quick before we head up into segments, I just want to drop my 2 cents worth in. Jets offense versus Bills defense. This is going to be a huge test. And the offensive machine, can they keep it going? They're going to have to establish the run game and win the battle in the trenches by any means necessary. You also need to use those short intermediate routes to disrupt the pass rush, so that way you maybe can open up the vertical off passing game later on down the line. But it's going to be flooding for this Jets offense. You're going up against the number 1 overall defense in the NFL. Again, huge test, another litmus test. Robert Saleh and company. It's a question as to whether or not you could actually play competent, competitive football. That being said, Jets defense, they need to show up, plain and simple. They need to show up, they need to play, and that's the end of it. Defensive line cannot have last week. They cannot allow themselves to be manhandled. Secondary needs to step up. That's what they need to do. The linebackers are going to have to play out of their minds, So this is going to have to be one of those games where the New York Jets play out of their league in order for them to stay competitive in this game, or in my opinion, they get ugly very quickly. All right. So, Kevin, we're going to start off with your segment. Who do we have in the spotlight this evening, my friend?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, for all of our family in the chat, thank you for rocking with us. I appreciate you. I'm going to pan over you guys just a little bit to drop the spotlight on Michael Carter and Elijah Moore, right? And the reason being is because obviously we've been discussing what a phenomenon Mike White has been, and I think that what is being missed in the entire context of that conversation is how much better those guys were playing in the situation. I'm not going to say that what Mike White did actually elevated their game. I think what it is that they did elevated his, and that's the whole idea of what skill position players are supposed to do. The whole point behind White is that Mike White is apparently doing such a great job is because he is decisive in his decision making. He's getting the ball to the guys who are there to make plays, and especially this week in particular, if Michael Carter can have the type of impact that he had in Cincinnati, if Elijah Moore can have the type of impact that he had in Cincinnati, if these guys can continue to build upon what it is that we've seen in both of their games and the reason why they were such highly touted draft picks, I think that is actually going to be the difference in the entire season going forward. Now, a lot of guys, you may not respect my opinion, or you may not think that I know what I'm talking about in particular, but if you go back and you watch that game, right, the contact balance, the yards after initial contact, the yards after the catch, the crisp route running, the open or the level and the amount of being open that Elijah Moore is doing, and the playmaking ability that he's showing, those are the things that we were talking about were missing early in the season that we hadn't been able to see come to fruition. And now at this point in time, it is a perfect situation for them to kind of step up their game and actually begin to be the linchpins of what it is that we do on offense. So in the spotlight this week are going to be those two guys, because I believe that if we are able to run the ball effectively, we have a much better shot of beating the Buffalo Bills. If we are able to maybe eke out some consistent third down production with a guy like Elijah Moore, who again, and I think it's been discussed a few different times at this point, isn't just a slot guy. The guy's had production, all over the field at this point. If he can continue to build upon that, then I think we actually have a much better chance than maybe even the guys in the media who make their living off of a low-hanging fruit and bashing us, they're going to have to change their tune, and they're going to have to change it quick, because I think these guys are really the entire reason why we had so much confidence in what Joe Douglas was doing by saying he was building through the draft. And I'm sure we'll talk about draft in a little while, but to be perfectly honest with you, these two guys were, outside of Zach Wilson, obviously, and Elijah Vera Tucker, who's been a beast, even though he's got some questions in his pass protection just recently. Those two guys are really going to be what it's about. Guys, I mean, I know there's a lot that we can discuss, but just for the sake of this particular topic, the spotlight's going to be shining on these guys, because if they can do what it is that they did against Cincinnati and allow Mike White to actually look the way that Mike White actually did, I think that it is going to be a really good question about what we can expect going forward. What do you think? Am I off? Or am I close? Jim, is it on you? On you first?
I think you're spot on, and I think what you mentioned earlier with the game plan is the hero here, and not necessarily one player or another. I think that's been the key for the surrounding cast as well. So, like I said, the offensive line was struggling with the reads that they had Zach Wilson doing early in the season. And when they shortened those up and they had us looking from a different direction from the inside out and from short to long, the offensive line really responded well and started, doing a lot better in protection. So I think that's part of it. I think Mike LaFleur, it may have clicked for him. Now we just need to hope it stays clicking for the rest of the squad.
Yeah. CJ, what do you think?
I think you're spot on in the spotlight segment. I mean, I think the Jets' success is going to be predicated on to whether or not these guys can get started. And Elijah Vera Tucker on that offensive line is going to have to play the game of his life, because you know what? I mean, Connor McGovern has been suspect. Hopefully this week we'll actually get, Dr. DeLaurent or DeMornay Tardif, or however you.
It's Loren. It's Loren Duvernay Tardif.
Yeah, and when I said a couple of weeks ago that I was hoping that we picked him up,
dude, good call.
It's not going to be for this game. It is going to be for going forward. This game, I think, I think we kind of got to run with Van Roten. I'm not sure if the doc has had an opportunity to kind of immerse himself as much as we need. This is not a game where we can have a guy trying to build chemistry. Over the course of these next couple of weeks, we should probably see him step in. But
I don't think
I'm excited about that guy, man.
Yeah, Kansas City runs that wide zone offense as well. So I mean, it's not that it's a different kind of package than he's used to.
No,
I think he could step in.
Yeah, well, yeah, I hope so. Real talk. I do hope so. And we're gonna hopefully before we finish up, we'll be able to talk about the draft, because Jimmy dropped some draft picks on Twitter the other day, and I'm just like, this guy don't miss, man. Come on, man. these are spot on. But
I'm glad you liked it.
We're gonna talk about draft on After Dark.
All right.
So because we'll
let's do that.
We'll have a lot more stuff to talk about, and actually a lot more time to really go in depth on what we really want out there. So, Jimmy Jardine, it is your turn to take us into the front office, my friend.
I got my popcorn ready. Let's go.
In the front office, I've noticed a couple articles actually, and I'm really surprised. I guess I shouldn't be surprised. I mean, we remember an NFL Network analyst that was blaming the Buffalo Bills 4th and 1 debacle. This guy was blaming it against the one against Tennessee. He was blaming it on Taylor Lewan not being in for Buffalo at left tackle.
That guy's a moron, man.
And so I guess I shouldn't be surprised when some of these analysts are wrong. But one of the things that we need to look at, I'm actually putting Mike White in the front office for this one. And this is going to be a description of what we have moving forward for next year. Mike White is a restricted free agent. He was a 5th-round draft pick by the Dallas Cowboys. There are 4 tiers of restricted free agency. Mike White doesn't factor into the first two tiers because those are more like your first round draft pick types or second round draft pick types. Mike White falls in the third or the fourth tier. It's a decision that the Jets would have to make. Now, tier 3 is what Mike White fits best into, and that is original round restricted free agency. Now, what that means is Mike White would be paid by the New York Jets $2.33 million or 10% of his previous year's salary, or 110% of his previous year's salary. So at $850K, I'm not going to do the math, but it kind of is what it is, right? So if Mike White can negotiate with whoever he wants, but the Jets have right to first refusal on all of those contracts. But if the Jets decide that they're not wanting to match whatever offer Mike White gets, then the Jets can say, okay, go ahead. The Jets would then receive a compensatory pick from that team in the round that Mike White was drafted in, which would be a 5th round pick. I like that. I think that's a good option should it end up going that way. The tier 4 is the right of first refusal restricted free agency. Now, this is what these guys have been getting mixed up. They're actually blending, some of these articles that I've read are actually blending the two. They're blending the tier 3 and tier 4. So they're trying to say that the Jets would have a right of first refusal, which is technically an aspect of tier 3, but they're calling it the right of first refusal type of restricted free agency. And that's just incorrect. So basically, the Jets can have the right of first refusal if they don't agree with, if the Jets decide not to match whatever offer is put out there. The Jets have the right to counter, and Mike White can either take it or he can leave it. But the problem with tier 4 is you get no compensatory pick if Mike White leaves the team. So obviously, I think the Jets will end up going with a tier 3 rather than tier 4. And I just noticed a lot of confusion on that with some of the articles and some of the comments and stuff on Facebook and Twitter. So I just wanted to clear that up. I hope that helped. Guys, what do you think? I tried to be a little bit quick on that, but
no,
it's sort of a technical thing that you got to jump in depth with no matter what. So.
Look, this is the type of commentary that we need, and I think it helps to expand the knowledge base of some of the folks that may, just think that this is mad and we just kind of do whatever it is that we do. Excuse me, but no, this again is why this is one of my favorite segments of any show that anyone does in particular, because it does give that insight and it does, kind of clarify some of the questions that folks might have. This is a perfect point when it comes to Mike White in particular, because what it is that everybody seems to forget is that if Mike White proves himself to be a competent backup, why would we want him to go? Like, I mean, if somebody calls us and says, oh, yeah, give us, a ridiculous draft pick for him, yeah. But Mike White has demonstrated, if nothing else, that he is the type of guy that if Zach does go down, he can come in and he can win a game. And not only can he win a game, he can win a game against a team that we may not have really been, expected to win. Right,
Mike Vick and Matt Schaub. I mentioned it last week.
Look, you certainly did, and it was a phenomenal point then. It's a phenomenal point now. Look, I would say this, even to this point, when you said earlier that we need to make this $35 million decision when it comes to Zach, that is the point. But I wouldn't be mad if we spent $45 million on our quarterback room because we ended up having to pay a little bit to Mike White to keep Mike White in the fold here when we know that he's capable of doing what it is that he did last week. I just don't think that when Zach is at the level that we expect Zach to get to, he's going to be so much far further ahead than where Mike White is at, that there's some of these people who have had all of these questions and have had all of these hot takes about how Mike White should actually be the guy going forward. And, oh yeah, we need to see if he's, why? Why do we need to see that? Look, I said this earlier, and this is going to be my take on this. Zach Wilson is 100% the guy. Point blank, period, the end. No questions. I don't care. Every snap that he misses after being ruled at 100% and being, you know, given that green light to go, it's all a waste if Zach is not playing, and giving Mike White a couple of games to determine if he's the guy. If he goes out there and he you know, puts up a stinker or whatever, then that was a game that we could have actually watched Zach Wilson actually work it out and do what it is that we were expecting to see him do, and that's develop and get better. It's a ridiculous argument, but phenomenal points about the compensation, phenomenal points about the tiers and what the expectation is for Mike White going forward. CJ, what do you think, man? I mean, I personally think that Jimmy is knocking it out of the park here. What do you think?
Yeah, I completely agree. I don't see Mike White going anywhere. I think the Jets re-signed him because, again, he's making a case to be the long-term solution for backup quarterback behind Zach Wilson. And what better to have two quarterbacks that you know that can properly execute and run the machine, and if God forbid it's down, you can plug somebody else in, and the machine continues to roll. And again, you know, I would like to see the New York Jets kind of page out of old Jacksonville Jets history when they had both Byron Leftwich and David Garrard. Where both were very competent, very mobile, very efficient quarterbacks that were able to operate their offenses. Granted, they did not have the wins to show for it because of lack of defense, but they did have an offense which gave a lot of people fits at times. So, you know, if the New York Jets can slowly but surely become one of those teams that we may not be where we want to be, but we're definitely going to give you a fight, and we're definitely going to put points on the board where the offense no longer becomes a problem, where it becomes a consistency where this team continues to put points on the board, where more so we could turn our attention to the defense and fissures that we have on defense or special teams, etc. But again, I know I'm thinking long term, but I don't see Mike White going anywhere. Plain and simple.
I don't either.
I would hope not.
I don't either. And I'm not opposed to throwing him $3 million, 3.5, maybe even like call it a $6 million deal for 2 years.
Yeah.
I just think that Zach Wilson and Mike White have a really close, really good relationship. I think they like each other. I think they like the team. I think they like the system.
Yeah, man.
And it's not a bad thing to be. I mean, he's still an NFL backup quarterback, and he still can win games. Like it's not bad.
Everybody loves the backup, right? And this team in particular, the Mike can White, man. Like,
yeah.
Yeah. I think this is a perfect situation for both of them. But as we start to see the roles kind of develop the way that, you know, we expect them to, I'm not mad at Mike White being here, man. There
will come, and I don't mean to interrupt you,
no,
Kev. There will come a time when we see Zach just extend the gap.
Yeah.
And White isn't any less of a quarterback because of that. And hey, maybe some team does want to take a shot down the road. And in which case I could say I'm confident enough in Zach's ability to start this team. Now let's get another backup that we don't have to pay $5 million to. Let Mike White go prove himself on a team. Let him succeed. I'd be happy if he succeeded somewhere. And let's bring another quarterback in that can learn from Zach and that can start to do that type of job.
Or we can recognize that even though Josh Johnson is a million years old, he can still come in and be effective in this offense as well.
I was talking more 3-4 years down the road.
I get that too. And just realistically, we might even draft a kid, you know what I'm saying, over the course of the next few seasons that might end up, you know, kind of filling that role. But if I'm just talking about short term, the downplaying of what Josh Johnson did in this offense is one of the things I think that's pissed me off the most over the course of this past, you know, kind of week. Because realistically, what it is that we saw from him also, and just a microcosm of this, right? When he threw that interception at the end of the game, he was livid. Yeah, he's throwing his helmet, he's pissed.
That wasn't his fault.
And look, he was in the zone. He knew it. He was in the zone. He knew it. He was playing good ball. And again, like I said, 2 minutes. And who knows if we got 2 more minutes in that game? Who knows if Johnson is able to kind of make a case for himself actually being a guy that can win games when the starter goes down. I'm
42 to 10 in the 42 to 10 going into the fourth quarter, and a third string quarterback brings it back to 45-30. Come on,
man. Again. And they're like, oh yeah, it's his fault. It was 42-10. No,
Right.
No, that was the defense.
It's a trash pan of defense.
Yeah. Offense doesn't score. I mean, defense. Offense doesn't stop the offense or their defense actually was. Our defense, excuse me, is why we ended up looking the way that we did in that case. But we really need to be better as a fan base in an entirety. We kind of need to do better.
All right. So really quick, I want to get this comment on the air, and then we're going to get out of here as we're running a little bit long here. Shout out to Thomas Gutman. Guys, to be perfectly honest, after a Jets loss, I don't speak on social media for days because they look horrible when they lose. I mean, just terrible. That's what shuts me. Thank you all for your optimism, though. Weapons Hot always gets me fired back up. Tommy, we appreciate you. Thank you so much for the comments. We love you beyond belief, my friend. Thank you. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for tonight's episode of Weapons Hot, a New York Jets fan broadcast here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. One more shameless plug, a good friend of the show, Miss Alexis Gepner. As we're running long at this point, I really don't care. So, shout out to Miss Alexis Gepner and the HoustonJetFans.com people down there. They are throwing a tremendous stadium when the New York Jets come to town to take on the Houston Texans. Go to the following website, which you see right here on the banner. Okay? Tailgate's going to be in the blue lot. They are going to have an awesome amount of food down there. Jets-inspired cocktails. It is going to be one hell of a spread. Let's go and make NRG Stadium green and white and absolutely just make the Houston Texans' day, at least for one day, absolutely miserable. So, details are right down here. If you have any questions, please reach out to Miss Alexis Gepner on Facebook, and she will answer any concerns that you may have. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it again for Weapons Hot. Here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network, you can follow the show on Twitter at CNC Jets Factor. Follow me at JetsFan523, my partners in crime here. Mr. Kevin Jackson at Spotty Blackman. Jimmy the Reaper Jardine at Jets by Jimmy. Don't forget to check out our Facebook page. Our content is up there. Hit that like button. Message us, we'll message you right back. We love going back and forth with people about this team. Also, leave us some feedback about how we're doing here on Weapons Hot. If you think we're doing a great job, by all means, leave us a comment. If you think we suck and we know nothing about football and cash, by all means, leave us a comment here. We will definitely roll with the trolls and go back and forth with those people that just can't figure it out for themselves.
Please come with that. Please come with that.
So, and of course, the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Shout out to them. Download the app. If you have an Android phone, go to Google Play. If you have an Apple, go to the iOS store, search up WWSRN. They also have a Facebook page. Be sure to go and like and subscribe and also hit the notification bell every time. Any show, not just any show from the Worldwide Sports Radio Network that goes live, you'll get a note. Great shows that they have over there. We had Mr. Errol Marks on tonight from the Sports Loudmouths. Of course, we have Mr. Ryan Hickey from the Ryan Hickey Show and a tremendous amount of shows up there, including the Wise Guys. Shout out to them. And, of course, Off the Mat, which actually takes place before our show, and they lead into us on Friday nights now. Shout out to Joshua Silverberg and crew over there. He's a huge Jets fan as well. Give him a follow and a like. That's pretty much it. I think I covered it all. I don't know what else I need to cover. Other than the fact we got After Dark coming on between 9:15 and 9:30 YouTube. We got special guest Brian Snow, the Snowman, joining us. It's going to be awesome. We might even have Terrence McLaughlin, who may decide to in into the feed and drop some knowledge. And don't forget, if you aren't signed in, Tommy Gutman, I'm looking at you. Create a YouTube account and go on in and comment onto the feeds. All right, we like to have fun on that show. That's the uncensored version of this show, by the way. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it. For Jimmy the Reaper Jardine, Mr. Kevin Spotty Blackman Jackson, I am CJ the Painkiller D. Simone, and we are signing off tonight. We will see you guys when we see you guys. Peace, love, go Jets. And hopefully we have some real interesting things to talk about next week in regards to the Buffalo Bills game.
Yes.
Peace
I
out.
dropped my phone.
Yeah, we saw that.